So the most recent pulse from April shows that the world energy system is no longer fit for purpose. And unfortunately, the concern from most energy leaders is actually the pace of change is too slow to keep us on track for the Paris Agreement. And that despite all the great intentions around finance and technology and international cooperation, these are turbulent and outrageous times in terms of great power contests around equity and inclusion discussions. So a bit of a mess, really.
Why has the momentum slipped? Is it because of what has happened and what continues to happen from the Ukraine crisis and the energy crisis, and the fact that everything needed to be on the table and renewables got a very bad press? There was a sense that countries like Germany moved too fast and it wasn't a big enough component of the overall energy mix.
I think although we want to focus on the European security crisis a lot, we have to remember the world is reeling. The energy world has been impacted by a series of multiple crises. Even before COVID hit, there were pre-existing stresses around security of supply and around the capacity to deliver a renewable revolution in super fast time, right? That was pre-existing. Since then, we've had the COVID crisis, we've had the invasion of Ukraine and the conflict situation, the decision by Europe to decouple from Russian gas, and we've triggered, and it's been exacerbated by a cost of living crisis. We've now got the spectre of a global economic recession hanging over us. We've got higher costs of capital. So it's a very, very tense and difficult situation. And in that, we are trying to build a double-size energy system to meet demand, at the same time as decarbonise that energy system faster than ever before. And the question that I have just heard at Ecosperity is, yes, we need finance to do lifting, and we need new models of finance, like blended finance, but we also need to think about the equity and inclusion issue between regions and also within countries. Who is going to benefit from this and how?
Angela, I want to ask you, I just got back from Japan and following the whole G7 train, right? What does it say to you when the leaders of the world's largest and richest democracies, right, ramped up their summit, and climate change, they did talk about it, right? But it barely registered in the headlines.
Well, the G7 was set up, remember, for financial cooperation. And I actually think that we have to get real with the amount of sustained international dialogue and constructive international dialogue we need around energy transition matters. And energy transition doesn't happen within the energy sector alone. It requires finance, it requires technology, it requires international cooperation and politics, and it requires considerations of new economic development pathways and justice and inclusion pieces. So there isn't a global organisation that has the capabilities to deal with all those issues. So unsurprisingly, when you go to the G7, the focus is on their core competence and the issue of the day. When you go to the COP28, it's around climate agenda. And energy always gets included at the fringes.